Good morning, everybody. When the English colonists landed in the New World, they had lots of things to do. They had to figure out what to eat and where to live and how to get some industry going. But sooner or later, their thoughts turned to education. And it was on this date, April 23, in 1635, that the first public school was established. May 1607, English colonists landed at Jamestown in Virginia. And how are they going to live? How are they going to survive? Interestingly enough, the next year, John Smith wrote this book, A True Relation of Such Occurrences and Accidents, etc., etc. So right away, they're writing about what's going on in Virginia. Now, some of the colonists did have skill in glass making. So one of the big questions as people live there is how are they going to make a living? And how are they going to eat enough food? So right away they learned about corn, also known as maize, from the native people, and this is absolutely fundamental to the survival of those early colonists, as they learned how to eat some of the native foods. A fun fact, in 1610, one of the colonists wrote about their trials and tribulations, and that was the same year Shakespeare wrote The Tempest, about people being shipwrecked. So did Shakespeare get inspiration from the Virginians? 1612, the Dutch set up shop in southern Manhattan, and here's a picture of the Dutch colony with the wall on the right that became Wall Street. So other people besides the Brits are living in North America, other Europeans. 1612, John Rolfe figured out how to grow tobacco, again something learned from the indigenous people. So this will be a big cash crop for those guys. And up in New England, off the coast of Maine, there was so much fish, they harvested thousands of fish in just 1 month. So this will be the basis of what will become a fishing industry. So another example of a local food. And then how about the fur trade? Well, after Samuel de Champlain figured out how to connect to the Great Lakes, the fur trade really got going. So this will be another source of income for the Europeans. So nobody found gold or silver, but they found it elsewhere. John Smith again wrote a book in 1616, A Description of New England, very rosy in his analysis of what was like. So it encouraged more people to come, even though people had died of disease and starvation. 1619, the first representative assembly for the European colonists. In Virginia, the House of Burgesses. Burgess comes from an English word for property owner. And then in 1620, the Pilgrims landed off of Cape Cod and then at Plymouth and the Mayflower. And before they got off the boat, they signed what we know as the Mayflower Compact. And we tend to think this as sort of an early example of democracy, but it was also about control, in that everybody agreed to behave. So it was a little bit of that too. Wasn't long after that, that down in Virginia, the first library was formed. So here we're seeing a little bit of culture, not just how do we live, what do we eat. And another attempt at making some money was silkworms on mulberry leaves to make silk. This is down in Virginia in 1623. Never really took off, but another attempt to make some money. And then up in Maine, same year, 1623, the first sawmill. Maine has lots of trees, so that's today where Maine and New Hampshire touch each other near the ocean. So we all associate the Puritans and the Pilgrims as being very religious, very strict, lots of rules. But what about people who were a bit rebellious? Well, in 1627, in the Marymount part of Quincy, Mass, they set up a maypole, which was kind of a party thing, and it was one way to sort of thumb their nose at the Puritan strictness. And here's our event, 1635, the first public school set up in Boston, another example of the Europeans settling down.